Over the next 5 years, marketing and advertising agencies are expected to recover from the lows experienced due to the pandemic. Growth will come as more and more tablets, smartphones flood markets, providing new revenue streams and increased demand for digital advertising services. And so many digital advertising tactics have yet to be fully used, such as mobile and location based advertising, really just creating tons of opportunities for agencies. The accelerated adoption of e commerce platforms and other online services will create a lasting higher level of demand for digital advertising services as well. What does that really mean? Well, all of that means that there will be a lot more demand and work for marketing agencies over the next few years. So, are you ready? Do you have sales systems and processes in place to compete with other agencies and win the deals you'll need to grow and scale your business? That's what we're digging into in today's episode of Agency Accelerated. Welcome back to Agency Accelerated, where we explore ways to grow and scale your agency with some of the most trusted brands and experts in the industry. If we haven't met, I'm Stephanie Liu, and we're Lou. I'm Stephanie Liu, and we're live every other Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on LinkedIn. So make sure you head on over to agorapulse.com/calendar and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, and stay until the very end, because you know what? You'll get a chance to get your hands on an easy way to add more revenue to your marketing agency. So I want to give a shout out to the crew. Those of you that are tuning in, where are you tuning in live from? I'm here in beautiful, sunny San Diego. So you could actually see the natural light coming in. It's actually really quite nice. So, hey, yeah, let us know where you're tuning in. I would love to give you a warm, warm welcome. So, listen, friend, with a $60 billion and growing industry on the line, being able to successfully and authentically sell your agency's services to prospects has never been more critical. And the truth is, 99 firms reports that 60% of salespeople believe that selling is getting tougher than before. Fortunately, according to Square to People, salespeople who receive continuous training achieve at least 50% better results on average. That's actually a really good point, because how many of you are actually getting sales training? So you're in the right place. Today's guest is a former multi-million dollar agency owner who now leverages his years of experience in the marketing agency space to help other agency owners like you and like me achieve success. And we're going to have a blast talking to him today. So shout out to Camilla Hiller, who is here, Sweden in the house. What? That's awesome. So Camilla, check this out. Lee Goff started his first agency, Get You Wired, in 2003 in his upstairs bedroom with absolutely nothing. After growing Get You Wired into a multi-million dollar agency, winning awards from Infusionsoft, Entrepreneur Magazine, and others, he decided to step out and retire. In 2016, Lee decided to pursue his passion of mentoring small businesses. By combining timeless old school philosophies with automation and the cloud, Lee and his team at marketingagencycoach.com have created a complete roadmap for agency success that we're going to dive into today. So having said that, Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to meet you, Stephanie.
Nice to meet you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I wish I was out there in sunny San Diego with you, though. It's so nice out there in the sun.
I get that a lot, but you know what? It's
Yeah,
just
I'm like,
something
it
about
looks
when the
good.
sun comes through, you're like,
It's kind of gloomy.
okay.
It's kind of gloomy here. I'm like, no. So,
You're like, it's good. It's good. So, Haley, let's start by talking about the work that you're doing right now. What makes an agency a great fit for the type of coaching that you and your agency has to offer?
okay. Well, we've actually broken this down into four different agency categories. And most of the people who come at me when they're in a transition point between these four different stages. First one being, I think everybody's kind of familiar with it, the freelancer phase. That typically is 0 to 100,000 in revenue. It's the freelancer himself or herself and a friend or two or a couple of freelancers elsewhere working together. From there, they have a lot of times have a hard time getting to the next stage, which is what I would call the successful freelancer. That's to where you get from the 100,000 up to about quarter million, maybe 300,000 mark. It's the freelancer evolving into the solopreneur, and that solopreneur typically has a small stable of freelancers that they can outsource stuff to. And then from there, you go to the small agency, and then from the small agency up to the small to medium agency. Most people come at me whenever they are at their wits' end on the freelancer phase, trying to get into that solopreneur and get some basic systems and processes, hiring, products, competitive advantages, excuse me, positioning elements, things like that. And by far the most common phase is whenever they're in that, let's say about 600,000 to a $1 million revenue, and you're starting to run into what's called the glass ceiling. And the glass ceiling is, in effect, basically the systems and processes that it takes to replace a dynamic entrepreneur in their business. And that's also where most businesses, most smaller agencies have a fail point to get to that next level. So when the pain point gets high enough, they'll typically reach out to me at one of those transition points.
I love that you mentioned the pain point because isn't that
Yeah,
so funny that most entrepreneurs were kind of like, you know what? I've been growing my business and it's been doing this and we reached this, but I'm doing the same thing. But for some reason, I'm not getting to where it is that I need to be. And so they wait until things get
oh
so
yeah,
bad. And they're like, this is when I need to reach out to Lee and his team. So then, Lee,
definitely.
I think the best question to ask then is how will they know when they're ready to find a coach? Do they need to wait until they fall into the pits of despair or when's the like what are some red flags that they need to be like, "Hey, you know what? Now's the time."
I hate to admit it, but usually it's only as a result of the pain getting so high. And so let me kind of give an example. Entrepreneurs are by far some of the most gifted and most brilliant people on the planet. They can literally do just about anything that they set their mind to. In most cases, they do. That's also the problem is that they can do anything that they set their mind to. So they think that they should do everything that pops into their mind. And so eventually you'll get what's that mean? Eventually, you'll get to the point to where you realize that's bad, and the pain of trying to break through that mindset and that glass ceiling will literally cause you, like for in my case, I had a heart attack. So stress. You'll start to feel tugging on your heart. Your wife or your spouse or your partner will start asking, "How come I never see you?" Or you wonder why you didn't know that your child was playing soccer and they've been playing soccer for 2 years. Things like that are the reasons where people kind of start to realize, man, I've gotten myself into a hole here and I need to get out and this is over my head. And so whenever you kind of get to a point to where a lot of things in your personal life are becoming dramatically more difficult because you just don't have the time to time or energy to put into those because you're so stressed out at work, or you've been stuck at a revenue model, or you've a revenue like a 600,000 just can't quite break through that 600,000 mark, or you can't quite scale past that $1 million mark. Those are typically pretty telltale signs that you need to reach out and hire a coach. And I would love to be your coach if you're out there looking for one. So
I love that. There's this saying where most problems in business usually arise for you to confront them because they're usually a problem that's arising at home.
that
I think we're
is
poking
very
the
true.
bear with our
Very true.
listeners right now.
Well, it's true because I mean, as a matter of fact, in my coaching calls, the very first question I ask, I have a very complex, not complex, but it's simple but detailed discovery phase, and people are a lot of times shocked at the very first question that I ask in that phase, and basically that question is what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay, and so that is, do you want a quality of life business or do you want to go big? Okay, because every decision we make from that point forward is going to be dictated by that, the niche, and your product line. Okay,
Yeah.
starting with what do you want to be when you grow up. And so, don't underestimate the power of the house, right? It should be your sanctuary. It should be everything that dictates everything in your life. And so if it's happening at the house, you better listen to it because it's not going to go away. Okay. If anything, it'll get worse. And so just listen to it and make sure you know what you want to, what you want to be when you grow up. And a lot of times it can
I
help a
love
lot.
it. I yeah!
I'm liking these effects. Mike, are you doing that's
I
good? That's
know,
awesome.
right?
So
Our
yeah,
producer
I'm
is
digging
like
it.
he's the
I'm waiting
silent,
for the
the
sky.
silent
I'm waiting
listener
for the
in the
sky to
background.
open up. Where's the sun coming
Yeah.
down? You know, so
Come get me
I know.
now. So I love that you bring all of that up, especially when you said quality of life business.
Mhm. Yes.
And I think even when I speak to my clients, we call it like, what kind of lifestyle do you want? Right? Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
you could have a successful business, but are you now not taking vacations? Do you have to get permission? Like what's
Right.
going on?
I would love
And
to kind of elaborate on my. Everybody seems to
yeah,
have a different
I'd
definition.
love it, please.
You know, everybody has kind of a different definition of about everything nowadays, right? So I like nowadays to kind of say when I say quality, like this is what it means to me. That's also why I put together the four different definitions of agency growth because again, everybody, all of us marketing guys or coaches or gurus try to come up with their own terms. Next thing you know, is everybody's confused because nobody knows what the hell anybody's talking about. So at the end of the day, here's what this means, okay? Quality of life business means this that you build a $500,000 agency. The goal is to never work any more than 40 hours a week, and the profit's very high, okay? Meaning that in that $500,000 business, we squeeze, it's called squeeze profit to get you to making to where you're putting in your bank account 200,000 a year. The other 300,000 goes towards taxes, labor, just all the operational costs. Now, if you're going to go big, that formula is completely different. Okay, so let's say you get to the $500,000 mark, but you're wanting to go big. Now instead of making 200,000, you're gonna be making about 75,000 because that 125,000 has to go back into the business. Okay, to for diversify lead sources, to establish new partnerships, continuing education. A million, trust me, you'll always have something to spend money on, and you will if you're trying to go big. So it's just a strategic decision you have to make up front. Do I really want to go big and be the next Bill Gates, or do I want to live on the side of a mountain in Costa Rica making a good living? Okay, so that most of the time the answer is I want to live on the side of a mountain in Costa Rica and make a good living most of the time, because people have a tendency. My experience is more in the U.S. So when I say that, it comes from here, especially in the U.S. with the cowboy mentality: go big or go home, right? And I personally did go big, and I didn't like it, so I went home. Okay, I sold it. I came out really good on it. The minute that I got to, I had 40 plus employees, 17 countries, 43 states, entrepreneur, Forbes magazine, you name it. I mean, I think by most people's standards, I had very much achieved success. I got there and I never got to talk to my clients anymore, which is what makes me tick. I love helping other entrepreneurs. All I was dealing with my leadership teams, my project managers, my attorneys and CPAs and referral partners. And don't get me wrong, I love working with them as well. But it's just not as fun for me personally, like what I want to do when I grow up. What I enjoy doing is actually being in the trenches with entrepreneurs and helping. I absolutely love it. It's what makes me tick. So you have to make that decision. Do I want quality of life? I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to do what Lee did and get divorced and have a heart attack. Just to be candid, okay. I want to relax, live a good life, make a good living, not try to conquer the world. So make that decision up front, and you'll see that a lot of the decisions after that become a lot easier. So
See, that's real talk there. That's real great advice because more often than not, people's definition of success is because they saw someone else do it and they think that that's
yeah,
the quality of life that they want to have. And really, when you sit down with them and you say, okay, well, what would that do for you? For what purpose? They're like, well, I don't know. If I have that much money, what would I really do with that? Would I really travel? Would I do this with my family and whatnot? And a lot of times it's like, what values are most important to you in the context of your career in this business in this agency that you're building? So I love that you start with that first.
yeah.
So
Simon
smart.
Sinek. Simon Sinek. Start with your why.
Hmm. So then,
That's
Lee,
when
what are? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We learned a leadership style at my agency. It's called group leadership style. Okay, that's kind of a hybrid between Simon Sinek, Jim Collins, and the now keep what used to be the Infusionsoft leadership team. So kind of a hybrid of all that is what we built, and it's called a group leadership style. And I'm telling you, it works wonders. It's wonderful. So
I think having your team aligned with you as an agency owner, what your values are, and making sure that that's in line in the vision that you're building is going to be super helpful as well. So I love that you're bringing that into your practice. Lee, what are some other big challenges do you see that agencies are running into that a coach like you and your firm can really help them with?
Right now, at the top of the list, it's almost always, I got to be able to diversify leads and drive more leads. But in this climate, the number one problem that I'm facing, and at least the number one problem that I'm working with directly with my students, is hiring. We've had a very difficult time finding the good talent, and that, in my opinion, is as a result of what I kind of coined as the third digital gold rush. Actually, I wrote an article for Forbes magazine about this, and it's COVID kind of kicked off the third digital gold rush. The first one was the 2000, back whenever the internet was all kind of websites were coming out of the gate. The second one was the social media revolution, 2008, 7, 8, 9, 10, right there. And then, as a result of having forced to go virtual, I don't know what the name of it might be. It might be the Zoom rush or whatever, because kind of everybody, that was the term everybody used, was Zoom, right? But it definitely kicked off the third gold rush. So when it comes to driving revenue and profits, my students are just crushing it right now. We're constantly jumping our prices up and adding positioning elements to increase that, and adding products to increase that. But the number one problem we're facing right now is finding reliable and skilled talent. Um, that's been a challenge. Now we are overcoming it. I've got a great little hiring process. We're overcoming it, but I guess a good way to kind of validate that are some basic numbers. Pre-COVID, whenever we would use my hiring process and we would run a few ads, or wherever we got the candidates, it would typically take about a week or two and a couple of $100 to get, I don't know, 50 to 75 pretty strong candidates. And then out of that, we would whittle them down through my process of elimination, and we'd eventually get to the top 3 to 5, and we would make our final decision. Well, now it's taking about a month and a half to get 50 to 60
Wow.
mm, mid-level candidates. And after we go through the process of elimination, a lot of times we're down to, like, there's only one left, and we have to go through it again and bring out another $500 or $600, or even one of my agencies spent almost $1,500 just trying to get 3 or 4 top tier candidates, right? And so that has been a major hurdle that we have been working on aggressively with actually 4 of my one-on-one coaching students. And the second one is almost always lead sourcing, lead diversification. Supply and demand dictates everything. So the more leads you have, the more in control you are of your business. And so we've been working aggressively on that. We're always testing out really cool lead sources and things like that. We've got some really cool stuff coming down in the pipe on that one. So those are probably at the top two. A third one right next to it, I put a 3 and a 4, kind of be tied for number 3, would be
Yeah.
not having a sales system or not having a project management system. They're getting killed on scope creep, or they're leaving 7 figures a year in revenue on the table because they don't have basic follow up. I mean basic. I am not talking about a hardcore sales floor $50,000 process. I'm talking about a few grand to put in some emails and follow up systems. Super simple, but over time, it's an additional 7 figures a year in your account, right? So, those two are always right there at the top as well. So,
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, and the fact it sounds like this is something that you've been working with clients on for a very long time. I'm fascinated by the trying to hire new talent and the struggle with that. Why do you think it's harder to find top tier talent? Is it because of remote work preferences or benefits, or just people
at the
figuring, "Hey, if I can
yeah,
consult, I can make more."
actually, it's a little bit of combination. I'd put all of those in there, and if I was going to put them in an order of priority, it's the number one by far is demand, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you could literally be about anybody right now, quit your job doing about anything, go take a course in content writing or whatever it might be, get out to Upwork and Fiverr or wherever it might be, and get jobs right now, right? So, I mean, it's not terribly difficult to break into the digital marketing space right now. And of course, the people with experience, the ones we're going to be looking for, are in extremely high demand. And so they're jacking their, just like I would coach them to do. they're going to jack it. They're going to jack their prices up because of supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
And I don't blame them at all, But that is a portion of it. You know, my sample size is too small to give exact percentages here, but if I was going to guess, that's 25-30% of it. Another
Mhm.
25-30%, or maybe even more, is actually the paradigm shift in workforce expectation levels and mentality as a result of COVID, meaning they have become extremely complacent and like sitting at home in their pajamas, and they don't want to give that up at all. And no, 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 this has been a part of the interview process,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like as if refusing to come. I will not come into the office, even though I live 2 miles down the street. I won't
Yeah,
do it. Right?
values have just shifted. Yeah, it's now I
Yeah.
feel like my time and effort sitting in traffic, if I could find something else where I don't have to subscribe to that, then I'm more open to that. So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, values have definitely been impacted by what's happened.
Definitely been shifted, and I think that's a double-edged sword. I think it's great that we're leaning towards quality of life and maximizing our time. I also think that the double-edged sword on that, you sacrifice teamwork, interoffice communications. There's no substitute leaning over and say, "Hey, Stephanie, remember that time you did that on that campaign? Yeah, how did you do that? Oh, hold on, click, click. That's it. Oh, great. That's super easy, right? If not,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, I tried to explain that on Slack. There's 15 minutes
Oh
gone because you
god,
can't
you
explain
said
it.
that's like the
you
evil
know,
word for me.
or hey, can you do it in a Loom video, or hop into Zoom? Next thing you know, it's just 20 minutes later, we still haven't gotten it done, or we do eventually get it done. But what would have taken literally 60 seconds in an office just took 20 minutes. So in
Yeah.
reality, it feels like you're saving time, but the reality is you're really not saving time. You're just more comfortable. So therein lies kind of the catch 22 of that whole scenario. So, again, it's we'll see how this plays out long term. I work out of my house. I'm in my I don't I'm a job kidding, but I work out of my house and I love it. Um, but when you're a little bit earlier in your career, sometimes, as a matter of fact, in my opinion, most of the time, it is definitely better to surround yourself with very high skilled, high ethic, high integrity people. And you can only do that sitting next to them in a workplace environment. So don't underestimate the
Yeah.
value of doing that. Now, I don't say we go back to that full time, but don't underestimate the value of that. So,
That's something that I would say I really appreciated when I was in the trenches of the agency life is because you do get a firsthand look at how your colleague, your peer structures their process. What's the mindset
yeah.
that they're in? Because sometimes even if you have a SOP of like this is how I do it, sometimes there's certain nuances of this is why I do it, but I didn't document it. And so you
Yeah.
have to ask them what are these unconscious patterns that they're doing because you're noticing it with your own eyes. And when they're right next to you, it's much easier for you to call it out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, SOPs are wonderful as it pertains to a checklist, but there's no way for them to substitute tribal knowledge. And tribal knowledge represents 60 to 80% of all of our skill sets. So, for
Yeah.
example, let's just get a real unbelievably simple example would be okay, well, great. There are these two people, let's call them twins, identical twins. Well, as it pertains to intellect, everything, there is absolutely zero difference between these two employees. One of them can produce work what would normally take someone 2 hours, they can do it in 45 minutes, and the other person produces it in 2 hours. What the hell's the difference, right? Both checklists, everything's identical. Then you go see their desk, and next thing you know is the one that does it in 45 minutes has three huge monitors, has a mouse, has a keyboard, where the other one has a 12-inch monitor and a little bitty laptop doing like this and can barely see the damn screen.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
rocket science to see
Environment.
what's going on there. Yeah, it's not rocket
Yeah.
science. And you only get that by sitting there. Oh, damn, look at that setup. That's badass. He's got three monitors. He's got the blue. I saw you got the
Oh
Blue
my God.
Yeti too. Yeah, yeah. And wow, that's a killer setup. So a lot of times it's just the damn tools that you're using, and you don't see that when you're sitting at home in your pajamas. So,
Yeah. No, I love this conversation. It's really bringing me back to the agency days. I remember that was the first time I discovered stand-up desk and and
no,
the
I got one
the
right here. Look.
whole yeah, look at you. Yay.
Ooh,
Where's the
yep, yep,
sound
yep,
effect
yep.
for that, producer? Oh.
I know, right? stand up there like Stairway to Heaven or something,
There you go.
going.
Awesome. I love it.
What was that one? I didn't hear that one. A little bubbly thing.
So there you go.
There we
Boop, boop,
go.
boop, boop, boop. So Lee, last year in the middle of a global pandemic, and which was pretty much like an extremely challenging time for every business, you sat down with Brennan Bliss, who's the owner of Pixel Cut Lab, about how he had to get out of his own way. Oh my gosh, I feel like I hear this all the time. You need to get out of your own way. Can you share that story with us?
Definitely, yeah. And actually, Brennan came to me well before the pandemic hit. It was about 2 years before the pandemic hit. Same exact situation though. He just couldn't get out of his own way. And Brennan is an absolute rock star. I get, in my opinion, he gives me a little bit too much credit and on this, but because the guy is unbelievable. He just back to the being the entrepreneur. He can do anything. He's brilliant. He genuinely is brilliant. Works as hard, if not harder, than anybody I've ever met. Just a great guy. I called him a kid, but he's a young man. At the time he hired me, I think he was 18. Now he's I think like 21 or 22 or whatever. But and so he couldn't get out of his own way. So he'd sell something and then he would hand it to somebody and they see that they would do, oh my God, it's not perfect. And here he's leaning into it and all that fun stuff. So it was actually pretty simple. I come in and tell him to stop, you know, interjecting himself into the service cycle. He had a phenomenal project manager already over there. He was just not empowering her with the ownership of these projects. And so that's what we did. We empowered his service department that he had already, to a large degree, built. We had to kind of fix a few minor things in it, but for the most part, he had already built. And then at that point, he felt comfortable not having to dive in over there all the time. And that allowed him to focus on driving revenue. And that's how we went from 180,000 to 800,000, is that we cleaned up his house, right? I think his best year prior to that was about 180,000, or actually, I think it's a little bit less than that, I think. And then within 18 months, he was at 800,000 in revenue and was going to break the seven-figure mark. And that's actually when the world shut down. And I haven't talked to him in the past about a year and a half. I need to reach out to him. But so yeah, we basically just cleaned up some very simple project management processes. Put in what's called a sales handoff or a project ownership process. Very, very, very simple to do. That helps to remove the thought leader, owner, entrepreneur, founder. It makes them feel much more comfortable about getting out of their own way. And as a result of doing that, he wasn't constantly being pulled back into projects, of which
Yeah.
then freed him up to go out and nurture key partners for driving leads, joining large business networking groups, going to conferences, basically driving profit, driving revenue. And boy, did he knock it out of the park. Again, I'd like to take some credit for it, but the reality is Brennan is just a straight up rock star, and I gave him the tools and a couple little nudges, and he did the rest. So,
And you changed his life, you changed his business. I love that you call it a project ownership process, because even when you were describing the stages of building and scaling and growing your agency, there's so many of us where we're like, I'm a great practitioner. I should start my own agency. And then you're like, but I'm still in the weeds. And it's one of those things where you're like, well, how many times do you have to see someone else do it for you to be confident enough to finally get out of your own way? So,
yeah, definitely. And I don't want to ramble on this too much, but the best analogy I can think of is in the sales cycle. It's kind of like dating, basically. Okay, so everybody's working out, everybody's doing their hair. She's putting on that tight black dress. That guy's putting on a tie. He's cleaned his car. He's looking sharp. I'm talking about everybody's looking good, looking real good. And all of a sudden you get married. Okay, all of a sudden you get married. It's flannels, flip flops, taking out the trash. Which, by the way, is actually the good stuff. Don't get me wrong. That's the good stuff. Okay, but you got to get there. It's just a paradigm shift in the relationship, and it will never go back to the dating thing. You are now married, and it's permanent. It's until the day until you die, right? Okay.
yeah.
So under that context, it's very similar. Okay. So in the sales world, sales reps are doing proposals. That document is a sales document. It makes everything sound really, really good. Okay. You know what I'm saying? It just duh. That's what a proposal does. Okay. It's kind of everything's fluffy. Oh my gosh, I love this. You're awesome. How about we do this? You're talking about this. You're brainstorming about this. Problem is, if you take all that head trash into the marriage, what happens to the marriage? probably going to have some issues. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you take it and you clean that out, and so you have a project handoff, like a formal ownership, and in that, you actually get them to go through the scope document that all it does is reinforce the proposal. It just does it in a much more legal and kind of sterile kind of environment, right? Very kind of pragmatic document. And it shows them what's going to happen if they do good, what happens if they do bad, what happens if we do good, we do bad, escalation, refund policies, everything. So now there's kind of a kind of a calibration moment, or kind of snap into reality kind of moment. Okay, great. Now we're married. Now I
Yeah.
have to own up. Now I have to own up to my 50%, and sometimes even more when it's required to help the other person out, right? But in dating, you still always got that option to leave. Okay,
Yeah.
but in marriage, you don't, right? And so that's very, very much exactly how it happens in a project management. I'm sorry, in a sales handoff process to the project management team. And you kind of got to make a big deal out of it. That 1 hour that you're handing that off is by far the most critical hour of the entire relationship. Okay, guaranteed. You don't show up for your your wedding. What happens?
Yeah. Nothing's gonna
Yeah,
happen. Goodness.
that's
Shout out
right.
to
That's
Deb
right.
Mitchell. Yeah. Shout out to Deb Mitchell who's tuning in and she says, I love some of Lee's wording. Yeah, just the way that you explain things, the expectations, the process, and the different mindset and paradigm shifts that are happening. These are things that will definitely help your agency accelerate into where you want it to be. So then Lee, I want to take a moment to focus on the challenge of achieving growth through sales because you're a great writer, you're a contributor and whatnot. So you're teaching everyone, and you wrote about the four components to closing more leads. Can
Mhm.
you walk us through those and why each one is significant? Because, at some point, you have proposals and whatnot, but if you're not closing the leads, you got to figure out where's the leak. So, what would you share with
No,
our audience?
100%. And these four kind of buckets or categories, or larger kind of broader topics, I actually have a system. It's called the agency sales system. It's called, yeah, agency sales system. And I have like a workshop we do. I have an online like workshop version, and then we also do a done for you version of it. But it's broken down into these four major categories or buckets. Okay, these are the four key components to closing more leads. It all starts with having more leads. Okay, so you have to lead harvest. Okay, and I don't know why other people never use this type of terminology. They're always talking about, they're always talking about the traffic source, but they never talk about the leads. I don't give a damn how much you pay for traffic or how much traffic it is. What I give a damn about is how many leads that I get. Okay, period. I don't care if I pay for 100 people to click my link and I get 100 leads. I couldn't be happier. Right? That's the goal, is the lead, not how sexy the lead that the traffic source is or whatever up here is. The goal is the lead. So understanding that, why is it that 95% of agencies don't even have call to actions or lead magnets on their damn website? All they have is a contact us link, or if they're really savvy, a free consultation button. Now, you are a marketing agency, of which is supposed to know better than that. But obviously, sometimes we get in our own way. So, let me give you an example. When you go to the doctor, do you go to the doctor for the same reason every time?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. When you go to you go to your CPA, do you go to them for the same reason every time?
Nope.
No. When you go to any other professional services industry, do you go to them for the same reason every time?
No.
No. You go when you are sick. You go when you get a letter from the IRS. You go when somebody sends you a legal whatever. You got to talk to somebody about something, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So my point is this: is when your pain is high enough, you will seek out a solution. When you get cut, you will go get a band-aid. So when someone comes to your agency's website, diversify your lead magnets around the top 5 pain points that your target audience experiences. Mike, that's a rock star moment.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Anyway,
Yes.
all right. But seriously, think about this for a second. What makes this so powerful is the fact this is a simple math. This was taught to me by my marketing mentor, J. Conrad Levinson, and this was taught to him by Procter and Gamble USA. Okay, so 92% of your target audience, they're just kicking tires. Okay, that's the one who just started an agency and he or she thinks she's going to be able to afford a Tesla, and will hopefully will be in the next year or two, but can't afford it now, and they know that. That does not stop them at 9:30 at night after they had a glass of wine to go into Tesla.com and building at their dream car. Right?
Yeah.
Right? You get married. You're talking about having kids, but both of you want to start your careers. So we're not going to have kids for 4 or 5 years. That does not stop them from researching most popular baby names. Okay. So my point is this: when people are in the tire kicking phase, when you diversify your lead magnets, you can harvest their name and email willy-nilly, freely. We all give up our name and email under that context, no problem. We don't care because we know we're not going to talk to anybody. We know that. We do it all the time. We do it all the time. Now,
Yeah.
component number two, vetting. Okay. So obviously, if you're harvesting all these tire kickers, the very first question is Lee, I don't want to talk to all these idiots. And I'm like, I agree. I don't want to either. Okay, which is why you have to have a vetting process. So you send them through I got a lot of different vetting processes. The most popular one is they opt in for the lead magnet name and email. It bounces them over to a thank you page. We call it thank you page marketing. It's got a quiz on there and it says, hey, your lead magnet's on its way. My little automation ninjas will take exactly 48.2 seconds, just enough time for you to answer 4 questions. Click, 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 click. And then it gets to the last page and it has a little video. Thank you so much. You sure lead magnet should be over there right now. But we have found most people who actually answer those 4 questions, a lot of you want to actually you have specific questions you'd like to talk. If so, put your phone number right down there.
Nice.
The ones who put their phone numbers in right there fall into what's called the top 8%. I don't have time to break that. It's actually broken down into 2 4%. What's called in-depth research and then buy mode. Okay. The in-depth research starts about 6 months. The buy mode starts between 30 to 90 days before they actually give you a credit card to sign a check. Okay. So if they put their phone number in there, at that point, it'll notify the system. It'll notify you saying, hey, you got a hot lead. Here's a phone number. It emails it to you. It can text it to you. You just click the button, boom, call them, and you close them down. Super easy, super simple, but you're not wasting your time with the 92%. Why?
Yeah.
Because through with their actions, by the way, prospects fly. If you haven't noticed, prospects fly. Okay, so through their actions, they showed you they are actually a legitimate prospect ready to sign a check. So you get on the phone and do it. I am so sorry. I don't know why I'm.
No, you're good. You're dropping
Okay.
knowledge, and it's just all like, Lee, you're throwing it all at them.
All right, and then step number 3 is going to be obviously the follow-up. Okay, eliminate follow-up failure. That's broken down into basically what's called an automated follow-up process. Once they raise their hand, whether it be putting the phone number in right there, or 6 months down the road, they click a link that is what's called a buy now link. I mean, not like an e-commerce buy now, but like a buy. You can tag them, lead score them, and it can show you whether or not they're in the buy mode or the in-depth research phase, right? So
Yeah.
when they do that 6 months down the road, the system will do it again. The system will like, hey, yo, one guy that opted in a year ago finally got there. He just raised his hand or she raised her hand. Call them, close them down. So you do that with automated follow-up and what's called personal rapport building. Okay, that's your automated system and your sales pipeline management. So that's number 3. Okay, number 1, lead harvesting, diversify your lead magnets, and a couple other smaller things. Number 2, prospect vetting. Okay. Number 3, eliminate follow-up failure and personal rapport building. Number 4, your numbers, KPIs. If you don't know where your money's coming from, you don't know where to go get your money. If you don't know that the money came from the bank, you don't know to go to the bank to get money. So if you don't know your numbers, you don't know what lead sources that you paid a lot of money for that actually generated money. Okay.
Yeah.
Best example is I don't remember the name of the company. This is actually a real case study, but there was a marketing department that got into a lead source and paid X amount of dollars and got just thousands of leads. And they thought that they had for real just hit a home run. Okay. Well, they wait 6 months and all of those, I mean, it might have closed. Almost no real revenue came out of it. And then an arbitrary lead source over here that generated 4 leads closed double the amount of revenue. But they would have
Yeah.
never known that if you didn't have your numbers on what's called a closed loop sales system over here that correlates the dollar spent back to the origination point, okay, not the close point, the origination point, okay, then at that point, you don't know where to go spend your money on. And so you're kind of repeating a very dangerous cycle there. So,
This was gold. I feel like if you're if you're listening to the podcast right now, yeah, there's the mic drop right there. This is,
good timing, Mike. You're right
yeah,
there.
you gotta take notes on this. Everything that you've said is completely gold. I love the follow up process that you had to, because now you're when you're asking them, are you in the research phase or you're in the buying phase, right? Because if someone is still researching, it's like you don't have to chase them down. They're going to do whatever it is that they have to do to get through their decision making process. And when they're ready to sign on the dotted line or sign the check, as you say, that's when you got to show up and be like, okay, here it is. I've got all my
Yep.
process and my systems in place. Let's get this through. So this is so good. I'm so happy when we have these types of interviews because I get to learn so much from it too, as well as our audience. So, quick shout out to our live audience that's here. We've got Johnny Bean TV that's tuning in, Deb
What's
Mitchell
up?
who's loving the lead harvesting, Brian
Is
Schulman
that the,
that's here.
by the way, is that the same Deb Mitchell I know out there? Is it? Raise your hands. Let us know if it is Lead Harvest. I don't know if it is. I know a Deb Mitchell. Can't tell if that's her or not, but it's you know.
Got it. Good. So, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the kinds of systems and best practices that marketing agencies are leveraging and putting into place to grow and scale faster. But first, I want to give you a quick story because this wouldn't be very helpful for you unless we were able to really share with you what's going on in our environment. And so, PowerServe is a strategic digital media agency specializing in paid ads. And like other smart agencies, PowerServe runs unpublished post ads, also called dark posts on Facebook. Many of you know this. And these posts would actually rack up a good number of comments, but PowerServe's earlier social media management software didn't give Mace's team a way to view and respond to those comments. And that's the thing, is that knowing that you're able to communicate with your customers faster and answer their questions is going to be really, really helpful because if you just let those comments fester, I mean, that's the kiss of death in the world of community management. So that was an opportunity when Mace took to Google to look for a tool that he knew the importance of monitoring, and monitoring ad comments would be very helpful. And that was the moment, friends, when he had discovered Agora Pulse. Hey, like, you know what? Agora Pulse might just fit the bill. And so Mace decided to learn more. And after browsing the site, doing all the different things, right, he was impressed with the Agora Pulse's user interface, the cost, its functionality. But most importantly, his biggest pain point was the ad monitoring piece. And it was at that moment that Mace had said, you know what, community management has become a substantial portion of our offered services. And they estimated that Agorapulse saves them over 15 hours of community management time a month, right? So think about that, friends, about how much time you are spending for that. Mace also pointed to Agorapulse's ability to monitor keywords and hide inappropriate content as both a time saver and a great help for online reputation management. So if you'd like to learn more about how Agora Pulse helps thousands of agencies increase and diversify revenue streams, head on over to bit.ly/ad agency revenue for a free webinar. And having said that, let's get back to the sales system. Because, like I said, everything that Lee was sharing with us was absolute pure gold. I'm like, come back. You're so good.
Thank
So,
you.
let's go back to that other challenge that you had mentioned before that agencies face, which is that dreaded scope creep, right? We
Yeah.
outline a proposal for the client. We say, this is the framework, this is the timeline, they accept it. And then, we have the hours included, but then new requests start sneaking in, and that starts to chip away at our time and our resources. So, what's your best advice on how to deal with that?
I got three tips on this one. One, you gotta have a. I'm sorry, this is not number one, but the first thing is have an overarching system. Okay, SOPs reside within a framework. SOPs do not work standalone. Okay, so I don't know why SOPs are a checklist that does not govern the checklist. Okay, so that's first. Okay, now I've got three actual tactics that will help for sure. Okay, The very first one is going to be what's called the scope document. A lot of you have heard this. Some of you are using it. Some of you are not. That scope document is absolutely critical. And so all of you out there are stating, yeah, but it's a lot of extra work. I'm like, yes, it is. I'm not even arguing that it is. If that additional 1 to 2 hours of which you put into that scope document right there will save you at a minimum 20, 30, 40, 50 hours over the life cycle of that project. So it's all about working smarter, not harder. Get a scope document in place that explains in detail the communications, the escalations, the refunds, SLAs, all the fun legal stuff. That's number one. Number two, begin with the end in mind. I actually cut my teeth in the productization arena around blocks of hours, and that's where most of the digital agency space is currently. They're selling blocks of hours as a product line, and that is definitely better than doing just one-off custom bespoke projects. At least you do have an expectation level. So if you get to that 100 hours, then you can bill them for another 100 hours. You're going to run into a situation to where, like, wait a second, those 2 hours shouldn't have been put here. Those 20 hours should have put here. And so you're going to run into that. But again, it's better than just having a custom project with almost no end in sight going. The right solution and what the entire industry is going towards, and just to be candid, all other industries have already been there forever, hundreds of years. We just haven't gotten there yet for a lot of different reasons. Primarily, the entire industry is too embryonic, too new for it to work. But productization is the solution to eliminating scope creep once and for all. Meaning that if you have a predefined product line with exactly the deliverables, how long is this going to take, what it costs, complete 100% transparency around your product line, then it's not difficult to hold them to those expectation levels because they begin with the end in mind and they were clearly defined up front. Okay. And that's the first one is the scope document. The second one is productization. Get a very detailed product line in place. The third one I like to call my Pavlov document. So this is how you train your clients. Okay,
Yeah.
so for any of you out there that have a dog or a kid or any kind of fur baby or baby that you're taking care of, and you're trying to keep it from being a non-heathen, meaning a little devil running around all over the daggone place, you have to put in boundaries. So one example would be I have a 13-year-old little girl, and I better not catch her doing this. You better be past that phase. But as a little girl, as a tiny little tot, let's say there's some candy on, in the kitchen or whatever. It's a little candy jar, and she goes over there, and I hear her, so I turn around. Her little hand's right there. She looks at me all cute and smiles. And at that moment, if I say, "Sure, go ahead, baby," okay, at that moment, she's like, "Whoop, it's okay." Tomorrow, she's gonna come back. She ain't gonna look. She's gonna grab the whole damn candy jar. She's going to her room. That's what kids do. Okay, it's what
That's
clients
right.
do. So whenever that client goes to reach in and grab a piece of candy out of your agency, and you don't go, whoa, 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 hold up, hold up, hold up. Tomorrow they're gonna come back. They're gonna take the whole damn jar. Okay. So what you do is, okay. So what you do is early and often you hit them with what's called a change order. Okay. For entrepreneurs, pain is money and time. Okay.
Yes.
There's only two ways you can really get through to an entrepreneur's mindset. One, force them to give you their time, or two, force them to give you their money. Okay. So what you do is whenever you sign on a new project, and this almost 100% of the time happens, there will be one thing that's just been a thorn in their side. They want to get rid of. My last provider said he's going to set up Google Analytics. It's not on there. Will you please set it up? My ex-husband, wife, partners on the website, please get them off. That page has been up there. Please take it down. There's always one little bitty thing, almost inevitably, that there's one little thing that they just want to get fixed quickly because it's been annoying the hell out of them. So when that happens, instead of going, yeah, sure, no problem, because you just trained your daughter to take the whole damn candy jar, remember their perception of us is that we just click a little button any damn way. They don't actually think we put 10 hours to building a page. They think we cloned it and magically hit a button and it all worked perfect. That's what they think, right or wrong. Okay. So when they got one piece of candy and there's no repercussions there, why not take the whole damn candy jar? So what happens this time is when they ask you to take that picture down or install Google Analytics, you pull up your change order document, you fill out your change order document, And in there, it says set up Google Analytics. It's going to take us an hour or two to get the log and explain the process. And then it's going to say, there's an option like paid for, about to pay, paying online, whatever it might be. And you got other. You check other. We're going to give this to you for free because we love you and thank you so much for signing up with us. So I'm not even going to charge them any money. Why the hell would I make them sign a change order document like that, Stephanie? Why would that be so important?
Train them how to be a
Yeah,
good client,
exactly.
that this is out of our typical scope of work. This is from the goodness of our hearts, or basically like we're building rapport by
Yeah.
doing something for you. Yeah.
And the next time they go to put their hand in the next time they go to put that hand in the candy jar, they're going to do this. Hey, Dad, can I have a piece of candy? As opposed to just taking the whole damn candy jar and running off.
Yeah.
You want
That's it.
you want them asking Dad for permission, not stealing the whole damn candy jar. Right now, they're stealing your agency's candy jar or something.
That's right. Yeah, and I love that you talk a lot about the pain, because I've always had this joke of the pain in the ass tax, or the PETA tax. I'm like, this particular client it's always like pulling teeth to get them to turn something in on time or respect deadlines and all the different things. So the Pavlov process, the change order, that's all. Yeah, that should be a standard. I never thought about doing the like doing a change order, but saying I'm giving you this at no extra cost, in, kind of like planting the seeds to further grow the relationship. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's great.
No, all they see is like, oh shit. Okay, wait, this guy's for. Oh, okay, thanks, man. And actually, you're the hero. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, so cool. The next time they go to ask you something, and by the way, these entrepreneurs know that they're not paying for this stuff. They just think
Mhm.
it's easy. That's why they ask you. And when you validate it by doing it for free, they're like, see, I knew it.
Yep.
Okay, so just confirm to them and document it. To do Google Analytics, we have to go get your Google ID. We got to get your login credentials. There's almost always a two factor authentication. And I understand it takes 30 seconds to put the damn code on the page. I don't even want to hear it. Okay, the reality is the client relationship takes an hour to an hour and a half to get to that point. Okay, you have to get
Yeah.
the login credentials for their WordPress site. Good luck. Okay, you have to get login credentials for their Google Analytics, two factor authentication. So we all know how this works. Guaranteed an hour to get that done, average over time. So just make sure that they understand that what you're doing is helping them, and you don't have a problem doing it for free. But if you continue to ask me for stuff that falls outside of scope, you will pay for
See, Deb Mitchell is also saying, I always invoice for all costs, then deduct what I'm doing for free. Never thought about the change order. So we're
it. Yeah,
all learning today, friends. We're
yeah,
all
yeah.
learning today. I love that. You may not have noticed this, but when you're off screen, I actually have my little post-it and I found a receipt, and I was like, I need to write this down and all the different things, because I'm learning too. This is why I love being the host of the podcast and the show in and of itself. So, Lee, another fun consideration for agencies is marketing automation, both for themselves as well as their clients. So, in your experience, what do you recommend agencies should automate from their own marketing?
Everything. Uh, no, seriously. I mean, not. I'm sorry. Let me back that. A lot of people go crazy, and just for the record, the agency I sold was the world's largest keep done for you certified partner on the planet. So by the time that I sold it, so my expertise is in marketing automation, CRM management, and all that fun stuff. I got 20 plus years doing it. At that time, I don't know now, but at that time, there was not even a competitor that was a third of our size. We absolutely just crushed it. Okay, and so the number one thing that every single agency out there must do immediately, and this is going to sound like duh to some of you, and it's going to sound like rocket science to the other half of you, okay, is eliminate follow up failure immediately. Sales is, by definition, a trust building process, meaning through education, you build trust. Through trust, you earn respect. Through respect, you get their money. Period. I don't care what you're selling. I don't care what it is. Now that process can go from zero to respect in about 3 seconds if it's a 50-cent piece of gum or whatever. But that process for a $50,000 project, that's going to probably take 2, 3, 4 months, unless you've already been doing the trust building and education phase through marketing automation. So if you go to my website right now or you join my Facebook group, it'll ask you if you want a lead magnet of some sorts on my website. And if actually when that happens, I hope all of you do, but hope if or when that happens, it's going to put you into a 45-day educational campaign. It's going to be the top 5 ways I can help your agency. And then I'll send you 5 emails over, I think it's like 30. It's not a lot. It's like, I think it's actually over the 45 days. It's like 5 emails. So it's one every like 9 days or 8 or 9 days or something. You don't blow them up. Don't be rude, but educate them in a very polite, high value way, right? And through that whole process, I'm giving you links to free stuff, right? So go over and watch my
Yeah.
webinar on the agency sales. So you don't even have to buy anything from me. You're still getting a lot of kick ass value, but what's really happening, and what I know is happening, is I'm imprinting my brand and my name into your short-term memory. There's a physical mechanism in your brain, okay, in short-term memory, that if it is high enough emotional impact, which is why they pay for World Series commercials and Super Bowl commercials, because the emotion behind it is so high, it instantly transfers to long term. As marketers, we don't want that high of emotion. We want what's more like we want slow, consistent touch points. But there's a physical mechanism in your brain that when it gets to that point, most people say 7 to 9 times, your brain recognizes that your heart and your body has put yourself into that situation. Remember, the heart tells the mind where to go. Even if you don't believe me, the sign is zero doubt. Anybody, if you argue with what I just said, you got a long way to go to understanding marketing. Okay, because
Yep.
marketing is an emotional game. It's called emotional hooks or psychological hurdles. You got to overcome those hurdles to earn the trust and the respect. So when they see my brand, even in a subject line, league off, and it's one every 9 days of 45 days, the brain will physically transition it from short term to long term. And when they go to look to hire a coach, they will look up and to the left. They will recall from their long term memory, because that's the trusted source,
Yep.
my name, and they don't even know why. Then they'll
Yeah.
go to their inbox, they'll type in my name, or they'll type in whatever they recalled out of long term memory. Boom, pop it, click Calendly, schedule an appointment, and then I close them down.
There you
So
go.
eliminate follow up failure immediately.
Eliminate follow-up failure. Have your 45-day educational campaign and all the things you want to imprint your branding on them so that way you are top of mind and tip of tongue whenever it is that they need you. Because if you could open up their hearts, they'll open up their wallets and that'll get you to the fast track to success. That is money right there. That is gold.
Well, you just said it so much better than I did. The way we need to, well, that was awesome. The way you summarized it was perfect. So
No, everything that you were dropping as far as like visual recall and all of that, I was like, mm-hmm, yep, yep. It's all there.
it
So
worked.
my goodness, this is okay. I try not to say this after every episode, but this is probably one of my favorite episodes. Up there also with Alan Kay. This is like I learned so much. My notes are now like back to back. At this point, I'm like, take me off the screen so I can take some notes. This is so good. Seriously, so good. I mean, the first time I saw you at the agency summit hosted by Agora Pulse, I was like, this is one of my favorite sessions. And so when I heard that we were going to have you on the show, I was like, ooh, yes. It's like, can I
All
not
right.
be the host so I could be the one taking the notes and I'll just produce it because this is really good. All right, so agency accelerated fam, you know we're getting close to wrapping this up. I know it's such a great episode. Lee has been absolutely amazing. He's been dropping so many knowledge bombs. I don't think we've had that many sound effects in one episode today. But there's one thing that I definitely want to do, and that's to give a shout out to our live audience for being here. Deb Mitchell, who is just writing down her notes about the change order and hit them early and often with the change order. So smart. Yeah, that whole Pavlov change order thing, absolutely amazing. So, one last question, Lee, that I want to ask you because you've been blowing our minds as far as sales systems, automation, and other strategies for growing marketing agencies. My last question would be like, well, how do we know when we're achieving success, right? Like what should KPIs really look like?
Whew. Well, this goes back to the quality of life, go big equation. So, if you choose to go quality of life, the KPIs actually get pretty damn simple. Okay, I mean, bank account and time. Honestly, I mean, there's more to it than that. But I know we're running a little bit short on time, so I don't have to get all the have time to get into all the details here. But How do you know when you're successful is actually such an individual choice. It's most of us again started out with a goal or a vision or something they wanted to achieve, and so if you've reached that, then I would consider that a success. Now, uh, if you're going to go big, okay, then it gets very complex in the KPIs, and I've actually got an entire notebook right over there. You can really see that's full of probably hundreds of different KPIs that will define your success or your failure in great, great, great detail. And you've got to have that if you're going to go big. But I'm going to spend the last minute here on the quality of life success, how I would define it. And that basically how I define it now, because my coaching business is a quality of life business. I don't care about going big again. I care about moving the needle for individuals. Okay, so working one on one. I only work with about 12 people at a time outside of my workshops and things like that, but one with my one on one coaching. And the goal there is to really make an impact on their life. So for me, success is not defined by how much money I make in the coaching or how much money I make in workshops and things like that. It's how much of an impact did I make on that entrepreneur's life? Because I'm an entrepreneur, and what it took for me to get here was 10 times harder than it should have been, predominantly because it was brand new. There was no roadmap for nobody. Like nobody had a roadmap at the time. Hell, at that time, it was called web marketing. And then it went to internet marketing, and now it's digital marketing, and it's going to stick there. But it wasn't even the same damn industry. It was a completely different industry at that time. And so, you know, that that is how I know again how hard it is, and all I want to do. And as a matter of fact, on my website, my tagline is "We make your life easier." That's all I do. And so when I get to make an entrepreneur, specifically an agency owner's life easier, give them more time with their friends, families, or whatever the hell they want to do, and have really made an impact in their quality of life. That to me is how I define success for me in this coaching business. So the reason I tell you that is not for any other reason than your purpose is your purpose. It's not mine. It's not Stephanie's. It's not Mike's. It's nobody else's. It's yours. And when you just heard my purpose, it is probably contradictory to most, hell, 90% of all of the coaches' purposes. They all do what's called the multiplier, the one to many. You hardly ever talk to them one on one. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. More power to you. They make a lot more money than me too, and I don't care. So back to success. That is my purpose. That is how I define success. So for you as an individual, think about that. Is it so you can stop working at the age of 50 because you know your parents are going to have some health issues and you want to take care of them? Is it because you have a special needs child that you know you're going to have to put a lot of money back because they're not going to be able to get out and perform in the workplace like other just people without special needs, and you're going to have to really financially support them for the rest of their lives? Is it that you don't care about any of that? You're never going to have any kids, and all you want to do is surf 80 hours a damn week and work 20 hours a week. So, whatever that is for you, okay, that is how, in my opinion, you define success. And a good coach will help you achieve whatever your definition of success is.
I am so damn happy that I met you. I am so damn happy that we had this episode too, because that is just all of that is brilliant. I love that as a coach, we're able to take our stumbling blocks and turn them into stepping stones for the next wave of entrepreneurs. And our
Yeah,
definition of success, like you said, it's very different. And I even love how you even future paced it as far as like where you are right now, your day to day, your a day in the life of you right now is going to be very different down the line 5, 10, 15 years. And so you have to
mhm,
start thinking about who will you be taking care of, who will be taking care of you, and all the different things that you want to have. Because if there's one thing that we could be certain, right? They always say it's death and taxes.
definitely,
Change,
exactly, exactly.
right?
So, and yeah,
Yeah. So, Lee, as I said, it's been an absolute joy in just talking to you, geeking out with you. For those folks that were just like me, scribbling down everything that you had to say, let's give them a moment to breathe. Can you tell them where they could find you? What's the best place to find you?
well, I try to make things very, very difficult. Okay, so marketingagencycoach.com. That should be pretty easy to remember. Hopefully, there. My email is lee@leegoff.com. And so, again, it's making things very difficult there. But I tell you what, a lot of people start with my Facebook group. And so, if you are on Facebook, do a search for what's called Agency Nomads. I finally got the damn name approved through Facebook. And if you ever tried that on a page, it's like an act of freaking Congress to get that done. But it's been approved finally. It's called Agency Nomads. And that's exactly what we do is we build successful agency owners that can kind of roam around and do what they want on their time frame with the amount of money that they want.
I love it. You probably heard a pause because I was looking at her just right now. I was like, I need to be in this agency nomads group. Like, that's what I got to do right now. All right. So, friend, that's all that we have today. But don't worry, we have even more incredible shows and amazing guests just like Lee coming up. In our next episode, we'll be talking to the amazing performance coach and motivator, Jarek Robbins, followed by Kelly Noble Mirabella on chat marketing, and then Kate Skavish on video content. She's from wave.video. As always, remember to subscribe to the calendar at agorapulse.com/calendar if you want to be sure to catch any of our live episodes. P.S. And by the way, if you are doing all the amazing things, wearing multiple hats, doing whatever it is that you have to do, and you want to listen to us on the go, you could always enjoy Agency Accelerated on pretty much on any podcasting platform at this point. So you got Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon. Subscribe, leave a review. Let us know what you think. I would love to learn more about what you want to learn about. I mean, the timing of this episode was absolutely perfect for where we are right now. And P.S., by the way, take advantage of our free webinar on how to add agency revenue by adding social media services at bit.ly/add agency revenue. And so I'll see you and your agency accelerating into the next show. What? Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Johnny. So amazing to have you here. Lee, I'm looking for agency nomads. 2 words, 1 word.
Thanks, Deb.
Being a marketing agency. Thank you, Deb.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
That's not it? Oh, there it is. Agency Nomads. Lee Goff, your marketing agency coach. I found it. Okay. Pending request. Oh, look at that. That's your question.